The fortress of emptiness. The sprawling Moretti estate stood like a stone sentinel at the edge of Oak Ridge, its wrought iron gates and security cameras announcing to visitors that they were entering territory where privacy was enforced rather than requested. Inside those gates, 8-year-old Gabriella Moretti sat by her bedroom window, dark eyes fixed on the garden where nothing grew anymore. For 368 days, Gabriella hadn't uttered a single word, not since the morning her father, Vincent Moretti, had knelt before her with tears streaming down his usually stoic face and told her that her mother wouldn't be coming home. The doctors called it selective mutism triggered by trauma. The staff called it heartbreaking. Vincent called it his greatest failure. Miss Gabriella? Mrs. Fernandez, the elderly housekeeper who had served the family for 15 years, knocked gently on the doorframe. "Your breakfast is getting cold." Gabriella didn't turn. Her small fingers traced patterns on the glass, connecting invisible dots that only she could see. Mrs. Fernandez sighed, placing the tray on the bedside table. This would be her last day in the Moretti household. Her arthritis had worsened, making the work impossible, but leaving Gabriella felt like abandoning a wounded bird. Downstairs, Vincent Moretti sat at his mahogany desk, phone pressed to his ear. At 45, he wore his power like a tailored suit, comfortably but with an awareness of its weight. The lines around his eyes had deepened this past year, etched by worry that eclipsed even his considerable business concerns. "I don't care what it takes," he said, voice low and controlled. "Find me someone trustworthy, someone who can handle our unique situation." The unique situation was his daughter's silence, but also the nature of his business. Vincent Moretti imported more than just Italian wines and olive oils. His legitimate businesses were merely the facade for an organization that controlled much of the eastern seaboard's less savory commerce. Finding household staff who were both discreet and nurturing wasn't a simple task. Mr. Moretti, his assistant Thomas, appeared at the door. "Mrs. Fernandez is leaving, and the agency sent over some applications for her replacement." Vincent nodded, ending his call. "Have they been vetted?" "Preliminary checks only." House candidates withdrew when they learned the address. Vincent wasn't surprised. The Moretti name carried weight and warning. Across town, in a small apartment above a laundromat, Camila Reyes wiped flour from her hands and checked the clock. Her son Miguel would be home from school soon, and she had 15 minutes to finish the empanadas before her interview. "Mommy!" The door burst open as Miguel, a cheerful 10-year-old with his mother's warm brown eyes, tumbled in with his backpack dragging behind him. "How was school, mi corazón?" Camila asked, bending to kiss the top of his head. "We learned about volcanoes."
"Can we make one with baking soda?"
Camila laughed. "Maybe this weekend. Señora Diaz is coming to stay with you while I go to an interview." Miguel's face fell slightly. "Another cleaning job?" "A housekeeping position," Camila corrected gently. "For a wealthy family. It would pay much better than the hotel." What she didn't say was that 3 months behind on rent had left her with few options. The Moretti position had appeared like an answer to desperate prayers. The salary was generous enough to catch up on bills and perhaps even start a small savings account for Miguel's college fund. Camila had heard the rumors about Vincent Moretti. Everyone in Oak Ridge had, but rumors didn't pay bills, and single mothers couldn't afford to be particular when opportunity knocked. An hour later, Camila sat nervously in the Moretti mansion's imposing foyer, clutching her folder of references. The house was immaculate, all marble floors and crystal chandeliers, but it felt hollow, as if the soul had been vacuumed out along with any dust. "Mrs. Reyes." Vincent Moretti entered, his presence immediately filling the space. He wasn't what Camila had expected. There was no flashy jewelry or loud voice, just quiet authority and tired eyes. "Misty," she corrected softly. "I'm not married." Vincent nodded, gesturing toward his office. "Thomas mentioned you have a child." "My son, Miguel. He's 10. Vincent studied her resume. "Your qualifications are adequate, but there's something you should understand. This position requires discretion." Camila met his gaze. "Mr. Moretti, I need this job. My son needs stability. I don't gossip and I don't judge." A ghost of a smile touched Vincent's lips. "There's one more thing. My daughter, Gabriella, she doesn't speak. Not since her mother passed last year." Something softened in Camila's expression. "I'm very sorry for your loss. I've hired specialists, therapists. Nothing helps. She's just gone somehow." Camila nodded. Children process grief differently than adults. The position would include attending to her needs as well as the household. I understand. Vincent seemed to make a decision. You can start tomorrow. Thomas will show you around today. As Thomas led her upstairs, Camilla caught her first glimpse of Gabriella. A small figure in a blue dress stood at the end of the hallway, watching with solemn eyes that seemed too old for her young face. Hello, Gabriella, Camilla said warmly. I'm Camilla. The child didn't respond, but her gaze intensified, taking in every detail of this new presence in her carefully controlled world. Later that evening, as Camilla prepared dinner in her apartment, she told Miguel about the new job. The little girl doesn't talk at all? Miguel asked, helping set their small table. No, mi amor. She lost her mother and it hurt her heart so much that words can't come out. Miguel considered this, like when Papi left and you cried for a long time. Camilla's hand stilled momentarily. Yes, but much worse. Gabriella's mama died. That's really sad, Miguel said with the simple empathy of childhood. Maybe she needs a friend. Maybe she does, Camilla agreed, wondering what she had gotten them into. The next morning, Camilla arrived at the Moretti mansion early. Security guards scrutinized her ID before allowing her through the gates. Mrs. Fernandez greeted her with obvious relief. Gabriella likes her toast cut into triangles, not rectangles, the older woman instructed as they moved through the morning routine. And she won't eat if anyone watches her. Camilla absorbed the many rules of Gabriella's carefully structured existence. No loud noises. No unexpected touches. No moving her possessions, even to dust. When she first brought breakfast to Gabriella's room, the child was already dressed, sitting by the window in her usual spot. Good morning, Camilla said, setting down the tray. I cut your toast into triangles, just how you like it. Gabriella didn't acknowledge her, but when Camilla returned later, the food was gone. The days fell into a rhythm. Camilla cleaned, cooked, and cared for Gabriella, all while observing the strange dynamics of the household. Men in expensive suits arrived for meetings with Vincent. Conversations stopped when she entered rooms. Phone calls were taken in hushed tones, but strangest of all was watching Vincent with Gabriella. The feared businessman transformed into a helpless father, trying everything to reach his daughter, expensive toys that remained unopened, stories that received no reaction, specialists whose techniques failed against the fortress of Gabriella's silence. One evening, after putting Miguel to bed, Camila sat at her kitchen table with a cup of tea, thinking about the little girl who lived surrounded by luxury, yet seemed to have nothing at all. Bridges between worlds. 2 weeks into her employment at the Moretti estate, Camilla established a quiet routine. Each morning she arrived before sunrise, prepared breakfast for Gabriella, and began the meticulous cleaning of the mansion's many rooms. Vincent was often already gone, handling business matters that Camilla deliberately avoided inquiring about. On this particular morning, Camilla decided to bring Miguel with her. It was Saturday, school was out, and her regular babysitter had canceled last minute. Remember what we talked about, Camilla whispered as they passed through the imposing security gate. Stay quiet, be polite, and don't wander off. Miguel nodded solemnly, though his eyes widened at the sight of the massive house. It's like a castle, Mommy. A very sad castle, Camilla murmured, guiding him toward the kitchen entrance. They hadn't expected to find Vincent sitting at the kitchen island, coffee untouched before him, dark circles under his eyes suggesting another sleepless night. Mr. Moretti, Camilla stammered. I'm sorry. My childcare fell through. This is my son Miguel. He won't be any trouble. Vincent regarded the boy with mild curiosity rather than annoyance. There's plenty of space here. Miguel, unintimidated, stepped forward with the directness of childhood. Do you have any kids? A shadow passed over Vincent's face. One daughter, Gabriella. My mom told me she doesn't talk, Miguel said, earning a mortified glance from Camilla. Miguel. But Vincent surprised them with a sad smile. It's all right. No, she doesn't, not anymore. My dad left us and I didn't talk to anybody at school for 3 whole weeks, Miguel offered. Mom made me special hot chocolate every night until I felt better. Vincent's eyebrows rose slightly as he looked at Camilla with newfound interest.
Did she now?
Camilla busied herself with breakfast preparations, embarrassed. Children process grief differently, she said, echoing her words from their first meeting. Later that morning, as Camilla dusted the library shelves, she noticed Gabriella watching Miguel from the doorway. The boy sat cross-legged on the floor, flipping through a book about dinosaurs, completely at ease in the intimidating mansion. "Gabriella," Camilla called softly, "would you like to join us?" Miguel loves dinosaurs. The girl didn't move, but her eyes remained fixed on the boy who seemed so comfortable in his own skin, so unlike the anxious adults who typically populated her world. The T-Rex had tiny arms, Miguel announced to no one in particular, but its jaw was super strong. It could crush bones with one bite. A flicker of something, interest, perhaps crossed Gabriella's face. By lunchtime, Gabriella had silently migrated to the corner of the library, still separate but close enough to observe Miguel as he built a fort from cushions he'd gathered from nearby chairs. "Gabriella can help if she wants," Miguel said, glancing at the silent girl. He pushed a velvet cushion toward her, not pressuring but inviting. Camilla held her breath, watching from the doorway as Gabriella stared at the cushion. After what seemed like an eternity, the girl reached out and touched it, then slowly pulled it toward herself. She didn't join the fort building, but she had responded in her way. When Vincent returned home that evening, he found something unprecedented. Gabriella sitting in the library, still silent but in the same room as Miguel, who was now drawing dinosaurs with crayons Camilla had brought from home. "What's happening here?" Vincent asked quietly, joining Camilla in the hallway. "Miguel seems to have made an impression," she replied. "Children sometimes reach each other in ways adults can't." Vincent studied his daughter, noting how she occasionally glanced at Miguel's drawings with something almost like curiosity. "Your son could visit again," he said finally, "if that's all right with you." From that day forward, Miguel began spending Saturdays at the Moretti mansion. Gradually, Gabriella started following him around the house, a silent shadow to his sunshine. She never spoke, never smiled, but where once she had spent hours staring out windows, she now watched Miguel build elaborate Lego structures or act out adventures with action figures. "He's good for her," Vincent remarked one evening as Camilla prepared to leave. "She seems more present." Camilla hesitated, then ventured, "Perhaps she could come to our apartment sometime? A change of scenery might be helpful." Vincent's expression darkened. "That's not possible. It's not safe." "Not safe?" Camilla echoed, confused. "My business creates enemies," Vincent said carefully. "Gabriella doesn't leave the property without security." Reality crashed back into Camilla's consciousness. In the comfortable routine of recent weeks, she had almost forgotten who Vincent Moretti was, what he was rumored to be. That night, as she tucked Miguel into bed, her son asked, "Why doesn't Gabriella's dad ever play with her?" Camilla sighed. "He's very busy, mijo. But you're busy too, and you always play with me." Out of the mouths of babes, Camilla thought. The next day, she took a risk. "Mr. Moretti," she said as he prepared to leave for work, "forgive me, but have you considered that Gabriella might respond to you differently if she saw you differently?" Vincent stiffened. "Meaning?" "She only sees you in suits having serious conversations. When did you last play with her? Really play, not just buy her things?" Anger flashed across his face, then faded into something more vulnerable. "I don't know how," he admitted. "Her mother was the one who—" "It's never too late to learn," Camilla said gently. The following Saturday brought another breakthrough. Vincent arrived home early, having canceled meetings, something unheard of in the Moretti organization. He had changed from his usual impeccable suit into casual clothes, and he carried a large box. "It's a model train set," he explained awkwardly to Camilla. "I thought maybe—" Miguel immediately perked up. "Cool, can we build it in the sunroom?" Vincent looked startled at the boy's enthusiasm but nodded. For hours, the unusual group, crime boss, housekeeper, chattering boy, and silent girl, assembled miniature tracks in tiny buildings. Gabriella never touched the trains, but she sat closer to her father than she had in months. As weeks passed, the dynamics in the mansion shifted. Vincent began coming home earlier. Camilla started cooking family-style dinners that they all shared in the kitchen rather than the formal dining room. Miguel's weekend visits became a highlight for everyone. Even Thomas and the security team smiled more when the energetic boy was around. But trouble was brewing outside their fragile bubble. One Monday morning, Miguel came home from school with a split lip and tears in his eyes. "What happened?" Camilla gasped, examining his injury. "Some boys said I shouldn't go to the big house on the hill," Miguel sniffled. "They said Mr. Moretti hurts people and you're a bad mom for working there." Camilla's heart sank. The rumors she'd ignored were now touching her son. When she arrived at work the next day, visibly upset, Vincent noticed immediately. "What's wrong?" Reluctantly, she explained. Vincent's expression hardened. "Give me their names." "No," Camilla said firmly. "That's not how this gets handled." For a moment, tension crackled between them. The powerful man unused to being denied and the mother protecting her child from further complications. "Miguel can't come this weekend," Camilla said finally. "I need to reconsider some things." The news affected Gabriella more than anyone anticipated. When Saturday arrived and Miguel didn't appear, she retreated back into her shell, refusing to leave her room even when Vincent tried to entice her with the train set. Sunday morning, Camilla was preparing breakfast when a knock came at her apartment door. She opened it to find Vincent standing there, looking distinctly uncomfortable in casual clothes with Gabriella hiding partially behind him. "We missed Miguel yesterday," Vincent said simply. Gabriella wanted to see him. Camilla hesitated, torn between her growing affection for Gabriella and her concerns about Vincent's world. But the sight of Gabriella, who had voluntarily left the safety of her home for the first time in over a year, made the decision for her. "Come in," she said, stepping aside. Miguel was overjoyed to see them, immediately showing Gabriella his modest collection of toys. The small apartment felt crowded with Vincent's presence, but watching the children together, Miguel chattering away and Gabriella quietly absorbing every word, Camilla felt something warm unfurl in her chest. Later, as the children sat together on the living room floor, Vincent spoke quietly to Camilla in the kitchen. "I've never seen her choose to go anywhere," he said, watching his daughter. "She wanted to come here. To see Miguel." Camilla nodded, understanding the significance. "She's forming attachments again. It's a good sign." "And you?" Vincent asked, his dark eyes meeting hers. "Are you forming attachments too?" The question hung between them, weighted with possibilities neither had anticipated when she'd first walked through his door. Before she could answer, Miguel's excited voice broke the moment. "Gabriella touched my dinosaur." She picked it up. They turned to see Gabriella holding a plastic triceratops, examining it with solemn concentration. It was a small gesture, but in the context of her withdrawn existence, it was monumental. Unknown to them, a car had parked across the street, its occupants watching the Moretti crime boss entering the modest apartment building with his daughter. By Monday morning, whispers were spreading through the criminal underworld. Vincent Moretti had a weakness, and it wasn't just his daughter anymore. The language of love, the first hint of danger, came on a crisp autumn morning. Camilla arrived at the Moretti mansion to find additional security personnel patrolling the grounds, their expressions grim. "What's happening?" she asked Thomas, who met her at the service entrance with an apologetic look. "Business complications," he replied vaguely. "Mr. Moretti wants you and Gabriella to stay inside today." Upstairs, Camilla found Vincent in Gabriella's room, speaking quietly to his daughter as she sat by her window, clutching the Triceratops dinosaur Miguel had given her. "Camilla." Vincent's relief at seeing her was palpable. "Thank you for coming." "Of course," she said, setting down her bag. "Is everything all right?" Vincent guided her into the hallway. "There's been a threat," he admitted, voice low. "I need to handle some business matters, but I don't want Gabriella to be alone." "I understand." Camilla nodded, though unease settled in her stomach. This was the reality of the Moretti world that she'd been trying to ignore. For 3 days, the mansion remained in lockdown. Vincent was rarely present, coming home late and leaving before dawn, the lines in his face deepening with each passing day. Gabriella seemed to sense the tension, reverting to her more withdrawn state. On the 4th morning, Camilla received a frantic call from Miguel's school. Her son hadn't arrived for his classes. Panic seized her heart as she rushed to Vincent's office, interrupting a meeting with several stern-faced men. "Miguel is missing," she gasped. "He never made it to school." Vincent's expression shifted instantly from annoyance at the interruption to deadly focus. "Everyone out," he commanded his associates. "Now." As the men filed out, Vincent pulled out his phone. "Tell me everything." Camilla explained through tears how Miguel always walked to school with the neighbors' children, but today he had gone early to show his teacher a project. He never arrived. Vincent made a series of calls, barking orders in a voice Camilla had never heard. Cold, commanding, frightening in its intensity. Within minutes, his security team was mobilized and Thomas appeared with surveillance footage from cameras around the neighborhood. "We'll find him," Vincent promised, gripping Camilla's shoulders. "I give you my word." An hour later, Camilla's phone rang. The caller ID was blocked, but she answered immediately, hoping for news about Miguel. "Ms. Reyes," a male voice said smoothly, "I believe I have something of yours." Camilla's blood turned to ice. "Who is this? Where is my son?" "Your son is safe for now. His continued well-being depends on Vincent Moretti." Vincent took the phone from her trembling hand. "Rinaldi," he growled, recognizing the voice. "If you touch that boy—" "This isn't personal, Vincent," the voice replied. "Just business. You've been encroaching on my territory. Consider this a negotiating tactic." The call ended abruptly. Vincent turned to Camilla, his face a mask of controlled rage. "Romano Rinaldi. He controls the southern districts. He has my son because of you," Camilla whispered, horror and anger warring in her voice. "I will get him back," Vincent vowed. "Whatever it takes." Upstairs, unnoticed during the commotion, Gabriella had slipped out of her room. Standing at the top of the grand staircase, she had heard everything. For the first time in over a year, emotions other than grief stirred within her. Fear for Miguel, the boy who had shown her kindness without demanding anything in return. As Vincent prepared to leave, assembling his most trusted men, Gabriella appeared in the foyer. Her face was pale but determined as she walked straight to her father and tugged on his sleeve. Vincent looked down, startled by this unprecedented behavior. "Gabriella, go back to your room. I need to help Miguel." The words, spoken in a voice hoarse from disuse, silenced the entire room. Vincent froze, staring at his daughter in disbelief. "What did you say?" he whispered. "Help Miguel," Gabriella repeated, her voice stronger now. "Please, Papa." Vincent knelt before his daughter, eyes glistening with unshed tears. "You spoke," Gabriella nodded. "For Miguel." She turned to Camilla, who stood transfixed, tears streaming down her face despite her terror for her son. "Miguel needs us." In that moment, something fundamental shifted in Vincent Moretti's universe. The empire he had built, the power he had accumulated, none of it mattered compared to the sound of his daughter's voice, returned to him because of a boy who had shown her how to care again. "I will bring him home," Vincent promised them both. "And when this is over, things will change." What followed were the most agonizing hours of Camilla's life. She sat with Gabriella in the library, the little girl now holding her hand, occasionally whispering simple phrases as if testing her voice after its long silence. "Miguel gave me dinosaur," Gabriella said softly. "T-Rex has tiny arms." Camilla gave a watery laugh, squeezing the child's hand. "Yes, he does. Will Miguel come back?" Gabriella asked, fear creeping into her newly recovered voice. "Yes," Camilla said with more confidence than she felt. "Your father will bring him home." Night had fallen when they heard cars approaching. Camilla rushed to the window, Gabriella close behind. Vincent was striding up the path carrying a small figure in his arms. "Miguel!" Camilla cried, racing to the door. Her son looked pale and frightened but unharmed as Vincent gently set him down. Miguel flew into his mother's arms, burying his face against her as she checked him for injuries. "I'm okay, Mommy," he assured her. Mr. Moretti was super scary. The bad men ran away. Vincent stood watching them, his usually immaculate suit disheveled, a cut above his eyebrow slowly oozing blood. When Gabriella approached, reaching for his hand, his stern expression softened. "Miguel," Gabriella said clearly, surprising the boy. Miguel's eyes widened. "You can talk." Gabriella nodded solemnly. "I remembered how." That night, as Miguel slept in one of the mansion's guest rooms, Camilla found Vincent in his study, a glass of untouched whiskey before him. "How did you get him back?" she asked, almost afraid of the answer. "I made Rinaldi an offer," Vincent said cryptically, "one that ensures he'll never threaten what's mine again." "And what is yours, Vincent?" Camilla asked quietly. Vincent looked up, his gaze intense. "That's what I've been considering. For years I've built this empire, thinking it was for Gabriella's future. But today I realized what good is an empire if it puts her at risk? If it brings danger to people she cares about? What are you saying? I'm saying that tomorrow I begin negotiations to extract myself from certain business interests. It won't be simple and it won't be quick, but I've made my decision. Camilla stared at him. Because Gabriella spoke? Because today I had to choose between my business and what truly matters, Vincent said. It wasn't even a difficult choice. In the weeks that followed, subtle changes rippled through the Moretti household. Meetings that once dominated Vincent's schedule became less frequent. Legal advisors and legitimate business partners began visiting more often. The security presence remained, but the tension in the air gradually dissipated. Gabriella's progress astonished everyone. Though still quiet by nature, she now spoke regularly, especially around Miguel, who visited the mansion every day after school. The two children became inseparable, Miguel's exuberance drawing Gabriella further out of her shell with each passing day. One evening, as the first snow of winter dusted the grounds, Camilla found Vincent watching the children building a snowman from the terrace. "I've never heard her laugh before," he said as Gabriella's delighted giggle floated through the air. "Not since before her mother died." Camilla stood beside him, their shoulders almost touching. "Children are resilient. They just need the right environment to heal." "And the right people," Vincent added, turning to face her. "You brought life back into this house, Camilla. You and Miguel showed us what a family could be." "We're not a family, Vincent," Camilla reminded him gently. "Could we be?" he asked, his usual confidence replaced by genuine vulnerability. "I'm not the man I was when you first came here. I'm trying to be better for Gabriella, for myself, and for you if you'll give me that chance." Outside, Miguel had placed his scarf around the snowman's neck, while Gabriella carefully positioned pebbles for its smile. Two children from different worlds, building something new together. "It won't be easy," Camilla said, thinking of all the complications ahead. The whispers that would follow them. The adjustments they would all need to make. "Nothing worth having ever is," Vincent replied. 6 months later, the Moretti mansion hosted its first children's birthday party. Gabriella turned 9, surrounded by classmates from her new school, a small private institution where both she and Miguel had enrolled. The grounds echoed with the sound of children's laughter, a sound once foreign to this place of whispers and shadows. Vincent now focused primarily on his legitimate businesses, watched from the sidelines as Camilla organized games and served cake. Gabriella, still quieter than most children her age but now capable of genuine joy, led her friends in a treasure hunt Miguel had helped design. "Happy?" Camilla asked, joining Vincent as the party wound down. He nodded, taking her hand in his. "I used to think power was measured in territory and influence. Now I know it's this, creating a safe place where she can laugh without looking over her shoulder." As twilight settled over the estate, now blooming with gardens Camilla had planted, the four of them, Vincent, Camilla, Gabriella, and Miguel, sat on the terrace, no longer employer and employee, no longer divided by invisible barriers of class and circumstance, but a family forged through unexpected connections and second chances. "Tell story," Gabriella requested, leaning against her father's side. Vincent smiled, looking to Camilla for help. He was still learning, still growing into this new role. "Once," Camilla began, "there was a fortress made of stone and silence, where a little princess lived alone with her sadness. But then," Miguel continued enthusiastically, "a brave knight came with his mom and they brought special dinosaur magic." Gabriella giggled. "And the princess remembered how to talk because the knight was her friend?" Vincent completed the tale, his voice soft with wonder at how their lives had intertwined. "And they all learned that family isn't always who you're born to, but who you choose to love." In the distance, the lights of the city twinkled like stars fallen to earth. The fortress had become a home, and within its walls love had taught them all a new language, one of second chances, healing, and hope.